Hi.
I'm here with one of my best buddies, Liz. Um, Liz has 2 girls, 10 and 7. They live in Minnesota. We only met one time in real life, which is still so weird, but I've been starting all these with how we know each other, and we initially met virtually through beauty counter work,
Mhm.
um, and then just kind of stayed connected on Instagram. And then met once in real life and
Mhm.
now stay connected on Marco Polo.
Mm. So funny.
It's awesome.
It is. It's like
I
a
wish you lived
testament to
here,
the
but
it's a testament to the power or the, the possibility of a long distance relationship,
yeah,
friendship, you know?
yeah,
When I
yeah,
talk
it's the
about
best.
you, I think, it does when I say it out loud, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we've really only been in in physical real space with each other one time, but you're my bestie and we're so close and I know so much about you."
Yeah,
Um, it's really cool.
it's really, really cool.
Mhm.
We also send snail mail to each other, which I think is so sweet, and, like, even our kids,
It's
like, my kids, your kids to them, I think they feel like they've seen them more than once too,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And part of we FaceTime sometimes, so there's that, but yeah, it is, like, such a magical little
Mhm.
thing.
So sweet.
I
I'm
love it.
grateful for you.
Same. This could just be us, like, sobbing for the next hour. Um, okay, talk to me about Liz pre-children. Like, what were you doing? Who were you?
Mm. Oh, so it's like 10 years ago. We were in the cities. So we live actually where we are now in Minneapolis. And then I was working, like my work life was like a selection or like back to back, basically admin roles. So I worked at a chiropractic office. Um, I like ran shit for people.
Shocking.
Like organized their lives and made sure everything was running smoothly. Project management, pretty much, you know?
Yeah,
And yeah, Zach and I lived in the cities and I taught yoga. I've been teaching yoga since 2009. So I was teaching more yoga then than I am now. And I was also in like 10 years ago, I was in probably the height of my yoga like education too. Like I had been teaching for a while, but um was really steeped in like a lot of training and super strong community here of yoga folks, really connected in that world. Um And that's kinda what I remember from 10 years ago about,
yeah,
it's just like work and simple life, you know? We had been married for, I don't know, 5, 6 years at that point, and just having fun in the
yeah,
city, you know?
yeah,
Um, Gardening a bunch, a lot of the same stuff I do now.
yeah,
I think of that person, I'm like, it hasn't shifted a whole lot.
yeah,
Like, the, weight of responsibility and the world and was a lot lighter, uh,
mm,
I think
yeah,
about that. Um, but just being a young person in the city,
yeah.
having fun,
Love it.
yeah.
Okay, so then you have kids, and I don't know if this was true for your experience, but I feel like when my oldest was 2, it was like, where are they going to school? What's going on? So, what was homeschooling on your radar to begin with?
Yeah,
And either way, if so or if not, like what nudged you in that direction?
yeah. Um, no, it was not at all. Um, we I when I was pregnant with Ray, I think we were so naive about, like, cost of having a baby, cost of care. We were pregnant and we didn't even think about looking into daycare, but we also hadn't made, like a conscious decision for me to stay home. It was like this very, like, bumbly, which is interesting thinking about my personality because now I feel like I'm so calculated, in that way. So basically we had Ray, and then, like, after I had her, um, we were like, "Am I going back to work?" Like, "What's the plan here?" And
Yeah,
quickly did a calculation of, like, what I was making and what a a good daycare would cost up here, and it was, like, very quickly, um, not affordable, for us, or didn't make sense
yeah,
to do. But then also, if I think of it in hindsight, I think maybe some of that was, like, intentionally, I put off making the decision knowing, on some level that I would wanna be home with her.
yeah.
Um, and then so very I didn't really think about schooling either. The mom community that we were around at that time, everybody went to preschool, and we have a really strong, like, parks. It's through the city, Parks and Rec preschools, and they're, like, at all the, um, park buildings, and they're so sweet, and we knew the teacher, and so we she went to preschool.
Mhm.
They both went to preschool. They both went to these really sweet, and when I say preschool, it's, like, preschool that's available for, basically, it's the preschool that's available for stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home parents. It's the ones that are half days. Like, no one's sending if you're a full-time working parent, you wouldn't, unless you did some kinda aftercare or something afterwards.
Yeah,
So it was still, like, this community of people that were staying home. Somebody was staying home with them.
yeah,
Um, so we did preschool. They both did, and I think preschool is the best. I think that it was a great fit. I never remember thinking, um, like, "Oh, this is, like, taking them away from me," or, like, "This is, like, jumping the gun and on what's, like, appropriate or what I think would be good for them."
yeah,
Uh, and there's so many options for preschool too, like, so many really cool options for preschool.
yeah,
So we just did that. It was affordable. When my second was born, it was like a good rhythm for us. It was also only, I feel like it was 3 days a week, 2 days a week. It was like
yeah,
a sweet little window for a rhythm. Um, and then when we were creeping towards kindergarten, we just went through the lottery system for our public school,
yeah,
and right, here you're guaranteed to get into your community school, but you can rank, different magnets and stuff, and kind of went along with that too. And I think that is probably right around when I was like, this feels like a lot, and it feels like a huge jump, and in terms of, like, time, and I guess for me it was mostly the time. Like, all of a sudden my little kid is gone for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Um, but we went along with it. So my oldest went to public kindergarten the full year.
mhm,
And I think, like, the context of our situation was, some mental health stuff that came up for her led to our decision to homeschool. It was also an incredibly, tenuous time to just be in school. Actually, I feel that, like, I saw some friend parent post this the other day, like, just really from that period. So she was in kindergarten in 2021, so it's just like still height of pandemic. really
Yeah.
from that point until now, it's like a
Yeah.
fraught time to be in the school system.
Yeah.
Um, so that is also the context of the decision that we made was that it was just not there's many elements of that that were not normal. And I
Yeah.
think when we were in it, because you're also in a community moving through that experience, there was a lot of it that was just like, okay, this is like how it is, and we're all doing it together, and we all are kind of recognizing how messed up it is, and yet we support this structure that is public school. Um, and I still sit in that. I still am that. There's certainly a part of me that is that. I'm a huge proponent of public school.
Yeah.
And the decision to decide to homeschool was hard in that regard too, because of that relationship or that
Yeah.
relationship with my, kind of my opinion on it. But we were kind of like when I think of it in hindsight, I think that we were really pushed into the decision on one level. Like it really came to a point where it was like, what are we doing here? Like this is not a fit for many different reasons. Um, and then in hindsight, also kind of similar to, our decision for me to stay home with them. In hindsight, I like totally can see it, like of course we ended up homeschooling.
Yeah.
It's like course, like, it's such a big part of my personality too, like, I just wanna do everything by myself. I can, like, handle it better.
Mm.
So I think but I also feel like we kind of needed, we talk about that often in terms of, like, how we got to where we are, and I think that I needed to go through I think we all, as a family, needed to go through it. It's also been really helpful for us to have um that experience as a family. We all remember that time, and I think the reflection of that is helpful for us to have like a um just a context to why we're doing this and do we want to keep doing it and just that conversation. It's like another data point, rather than this feeling that like I never want them to feel like we are solely making the decision without their input.
Yeah.
And I think that because we went through that is, like, super helpful in that regard,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's how we ended up I also right around that time, like, was kind of being pushed into this decision and kind of knew it was coming, but was having a hard time making the call, like making the final call, and met two moms in our neighborhood that homeschool. And it was just this like serendipitous moment of like, yeah, we do this and this is why we do it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I really needed to meet them. Like it was
Yeah. Like in your neighborhood too, which is so
in our
nice.
neighborhood. Yeah. It really was like this kind of tipping point of like, oh, like I can't, we can like, I just felt so much more empowered to make the decision knowing that we would land in community. And I feel so much for homeschool families that either don't have that or just are more isolated. Or, I mean, that was just such a huge, you know, push in the direction I was going anyway.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about where you sit in terms of like, do you subscribe to any philosophies? Like, where did you kind of land? And maybe connected to curriculum, maybe not, but also like, I'd love for you to share like kind of your relationship between like curriculum, no curriculum, and also kind of like the overarching,
Yeah.
because there's all the different,
Yeah. Like unschooling or,
unschooling, Waldorf,
yeah.
Montessori, Charlotte Mason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I've kind of been again, it's so interesting, for how calculated my personality can be and how planny. Like, I really am about I'm really good at, executing a plan, coming up and executing a plan. But I will say, like, getting to that place, I am a little bit more bumbly and kind of feeling my way, and I feel like that's kind of been I mean, I don't know if that would be a good enough description of our overarching but, I just kind of was like asked a couple people what they did. We had, like, my youngest, the preschool that she went to was, like, Waldorf inspired.
Mhm.
It's, like, run by a previous she previously worked in a Waldorf school. So I had that kind of influence, a little bit. And also had already started this is interesting too, had already started so when my oldest was in public kindergarten, there because it was COVID and because of a teacher's strike, there were, like, huge swaths of time where they actually weren't even in school. Like, that was at the point where, like, if someone tested positive, the whole classroom would be out for, like, 2 weeks or whatever.
Mm.
It was, like, super disruptive. So during her, uh, kindergarten year is when I purchased pinwheels.
Love it.
So we started pinwheels because she was ready to read and wasn't getting that instruction really, and so I'm like, "We'll just do that. We'll just do pinwheels," you know? So again, like, it's so funny in hindsight, I was already homeschooling for sure, even though she was in school. Um I think that's the nature of being a stay-at-home parent though too, if you're
Yeah.
right? Like, you're already doing especially those younger years, you're already doing at least for my personality, I was already doing rhythm stuff and, I took care of another baby 2 days a week, and so we would we had structure in our
Yeah.
so, like, the transition to, like, fully homeschooling did not feel daunting to me in that way at all because I mean, I think it's partially, again, my personality, but also, I kinda knew my kids and I knew, sort of their strengths. I think maybe comparatively to a parent that if you're transitioning to homeschool from your kids being in school full time and maybe
Yeah.
going home with them, like be way more of a kind of abrupt, kind of fumbling time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we are like, and then now we're pretty structured with some elements of curriculum. I'd say like with math and language arts stuff, we're like pretty committed and we school year round. So we go through the summer. But then like with other things, it's been like really, I feel like from kind of science, history, like humanities, um, we are following, like, interest points more.
Mhm.
Like, I've tried to do curriculum with those things, and it's interesting. Like, I've started and stopped quite a few times, like, with more, like, formal whatever lessons with that. And it feels sort of silly to me unless they've had the some kind of question or exposure point first for me.
Yeah.
"Okay, we're gonna learn the states," and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like, then it really quickly does just become, like, rote memorization or, like, "Mom told us we're writing the steps to photosynthesis," or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that side of things, we've just been, kind of following where we're getting exposure and then go from there,
Yeah.
with some exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, we're fairly, like, I mean, I don't wanna say regimented. They would probably say I am.
You do. You have a good rhythm. And I feel like a
Thank you.
really good mix of like, you do a lot of community stuff too.
Yeah,
And yeah.
right. Yeah, we've had, like, this community of homeschool kids since the beginning, really. We had this, like, group of moms, and we've organized a meetup, like, once a week, and then those same kids are also in another couple of things, so we see this same group, outside of the house 3 times a week, you know?
Yeah.
So that, like, has kinda taken precedence too. I can see, like, maybe that shifting in the next couple years, like, when we move into and it's cool, it's so interesting too, like, just watching my oldest and, her her ability and, interest in getting into the more into more deeper topics and in terms of just, like, wanting to know more is increasing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know,
It makes
but,
sense
like
when you see it outside of, like, the school system because
yeah.
you do see the progression of, like, "Oh, yeah, all of this." Yeah,
Right. Well, and in hindsight, I would that's what I would tell myself is just to chill out, you know?
yeah,
Actually, our mutual Meg, really early on, I was talking to Meg about even I think it was before we decided to I think it was before Ray was in kindergarten. I was talking to her, and she's just so blunt about things.
yeah,
She was just like and I've kept this I feel like I come back to this very regularly. She was basically like, "It doesn't fucking matter until,
yeah,
like, 6th grade."
yeah. I just interviewed Meg, um,
She
and
say
yeah,
that.
she literally said, like, reading she was talking about
Yeah,
their process with reading. She's like, "It didn't click till, like, 7th grade." And she's like, "Whatever," and she actually I was gonna bring it up when you were talking about kind of that line between, like, motherhood and homeschooling, um, because she brought up the same exact thing, just sort of like how like, she's like, "I don't know, am I homeschooling Freddie, or
yeah,
is it just, like, me being a mom right
right,
now?"
right.
You know?
Yeah,
Um, and I was sharing how, like, yeah, when so many people were like, "What's Eloise doing for preschool?"
yeah.
And then I, like, kind of felt the pressure to be like, "I guess we're homeschool preschooling."
Well, I know, isn't that sweet too? Like, now I think of that, like, when we have new families approach our group, and if they have kids that are under elementary school age, I'm like, I wanna take their heads and be like, "You don't worry about homeschooling. You're just, like,
Yeah.
with your kids. Like, you don't
Yeah.
need to homeschool. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing about school you need to do," you know?
Yes.
It's so that part makes me so sad that we feel like even if you're choosing the homeschool route, that you feel like you have to we feel like we have to, defend it and be like, "Well, we are still schooling.
Yeah.
They're 3."
Well, and the
But
reality is we weren't doing you know what I mean? Like, it was the rhythm stuff, kinda like what you said, it was the stuff that we had always been doing.
right.
But I felt the pressure to, like, call it something else
Mhm.
because all my kids'
The
friends were,
else.
like, disappearing into school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel that for sure. And it's like I mean, even, like, the bulk of these interviews have been with moms who are kind of my contemporaries, like, with kids very similar ages, and I'm like, the reality is, like, we are all really just starting,
Yeah,
Like, my eldest is 8,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I
Like, in the
know.
grand scheme of things, like,
Yeah,
that is still so
like,
young.
we're just protecting childhood really at this point and, like and exposing and teaching them to read, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, so sweet.
That's such a sweet way of putting it, protecting childhood. It makes me think of is her name Fran, that woman on Substack who does all that, like, children's rights stuff?
Oh, yeah, I haven't really seen her stuff lately. I wonder if she's off, like, my algorithm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
She
it's so, so
I don't
cool.
read everything she does, but every once in a while, I'll, like, read through and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
man, yeah." Like,
So cool.
basically, in a nutshell, just that, like,
Mhm,
protecting children's rights
mhm,
and not treating children as if, like, they don't have opinions or, like, a
mm,
say in what they want.
mhm,
And it makes me this kinda takes me back to an interview I did with my friend Lauren too. We were just talking about, like, everything from, like, sinks in Japan, like, the bathroom sinks are, like, on the kids' level actually, as
yeah,
opposed like, things like that where you're like, "Yeah, why don't we make sinks for kids?" You know?
mhm, mhm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, do you feel like you had expectations of what homeschooling would be like, and how does that kind of, match up with, like, what it feels like now?
Uh, I have expectations?
You can say no too if you didn't.
I don't think I did. I think that I think that I had a clear idea of what I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
like, I really wanted joy and ease and, um, like, them to be leading and for it to feel, like, democratic.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, sorta, take apart, like, the traditional, maybe, means of learning things.
Mhm.
Which is hard to actually do.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that is the kind of the pain points that I came across right away is, like, especially with kind of the tangible things like math and reading, how to stay in that, like, when there are benchmarks, right? And wanting to provide those skills, those learning benchmarks for my kids, right? Like I value those things. I want them to be able to read. I want them to be able to spell. They want those things too. And then like the structure of learning them and staying connected to this idea of like we could do it differently than maybe what would happen in a classroom or, because my instinct, I think it's or maybe not my instinct, but the thing that I fall back on if I'm tired or like not inspired or whatever is pretty rote like okay we're going to have a lesson we're having lessons.
Yeah.
So I think I've fought with that quite a bit and gone back and forth quite a bit um in my in our kind of family homeschool and the way that we're approaching things.
Yeah.
um that's hard, that's still really hard for me.
Yeah. Do you think it
It-
comes from being a public school kid? Like, do you think it is
yeah,
some of that? Yeah.
I think and also I am like the student that I was, I was a kid that memorized really very easily. That is my memory of school. I did really well in school because I could memorize really easily. Like I fit the mold with that.
Yeah.
And so it's how I learned and how I know things. Like how I learned things was that. And that's how I reflect on school, which isn't all bad. Like
Yeah.
my memories of school aren't necessarily, negative, right? Because
Yeah.
I was like rewarded and was thought of as a smart kid and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, I've because of that, and I'm very aware of that. I think that I've tried to lean into it's an interesting thing, right? Like I've tried to lean into this other approach and really seeing how they learn things. And that is really cool. Like I've had very tangible experiences with both of them of seeing how they have learned differently than each other and then also like really humbling moments of like we've had very um like very upfront interactions with like I'm trying to explain something and they are understanding the concept but they don't understand the way that I'm explaining it and
Mm.
then they explain how they're thinking about it and I'm like oh like that makes no sense to
Yeah.
I'm thinking mainly with some math concepts like
Yeah.
very, very kind of upfront experiences with like, "Whoa," and I'm like, "Well, I guess if you get it." Even if I don't understand how you're getting there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know, yeah. So
I'm having that with, my middle right now, like, he watching because Eloise was always like, she would try all the different methods that they, like,
yeah, yeah,
had her try, right? With him, I don't always know how he's like, I'm watching him,
uh-huh,
and I'm like, I don't think he's doing it the way that they, like, want him to,
right,
but he's still getting there, and so I'm watching that right now with curiosity. I'm like, I don't
yeah.
know where 'cause sometimes it'll be really quick, and I'm like, "Did he memorize it?"
Which
Or
is so cool. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that alone, like, gives me, like, goosebumps. That to me is, like, one of the biggest benefits of homeschooling is, like, validating for me, like, the different way like, learning the ways that they learn and then validating those ways. Like, I had this conversation with my sister a while ago, and I was telling her about raise math, the math concepts or like the way that they're teaching math now, which like my memory of math was just like rote memorization. And
Yeah.
now all of these like mental math tricks, I never
Yeah.
learned those ever.
I know. It makes it easier for me too. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm relearning."
Right. And my sister has very tangible memories of doing math in that way. She was like, I would see an equation and I would do these repair because I was explaining like actually, like the make 10 or whatever it was. And she was like, "Oh, I remember doing that and faking that I had memorized it." Like
Mm.
like having the times tables out there, like the timed times tables.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'd go through and I did not have them memorized, but I had this like quick mental math thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, man." And she's like, I felt like my memory of that is that I felt stupid, that I could not memorize and that I was cheating somehow by doing
Mm.
this like mental math. I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
That just like, and not that every kid's story is that, but I think that like acknowledging the ways that their brains work is so cool. And it makes it easier to parent
Yeah.
beyond math and
Yeah.
like knowing kind of how my kids approach problem solving and the like the points that make them frustrated and um really watching that in them. Like it's so cool to be as much as it's really difficult too, it's so cool to be so attuned to that in them.
Yeah.
Like that is a huge I don't know if I would have ever expected that in homeschool. I think like looking at it from back then, I think still even at that point, I really thought of homeschool or like our school time during the day as being like this kind of separate chunk,
Mm.
you know, of time. And I think that's been kind of blown wide open. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, it really is all the time," and like, a just this, like, ever-evolving conversation, which is so cool, you know?
Yeah.
We're just, like, so much closer.
Yeah.
So cool.
What are your favorite homeschool days?
Um, I think my favorite homeschool days we have one day a week that we're home for the morning. And then in the afternoon, we have gym class with all of our friends. We're just outside. And gym class being like most of the time, we're just, in the woods. We live right by the river. And so there's like all these little access points. It's not developed where we are, like along the river. And we just like tumble around in the woods. And our gym time is run by parents, but it is a drop off. So there's a couple of us there, but then like not parents, in comparison to our other kind of homeschool group day where everybody's parents are there.
Yeah.
Gym, I have the like benefit of being around this group of kids that I like love. I love them so much without their parents, which is weird as that sounds. It's like so sweet, and I have
Yeah.
really, really sweet relationships with them all, and my kids are there too, but they're so comfy with the group that I don't really have a whole lot of, like, touch points with them, like, they're really just on off doing their thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think those are my favorite days. I really, really I think that has been surprising too. I mean, I've always loved kids. I always knew I wanted kids. I've been babysitting since I was like 8.
Yeah.
Um, but I love spending time with kids, like unstructured time with kids. It's
Yeah.
my favorite thing. And it's really therapeutic for me. And um, I I love dropping into play in that way. It's, like, really life-giving.
Yeah.
So those are my favorite days, gym days. Pretty
I
sweet,
love that.
really special.
Yeah, it's, like, good for you and good for them
Mhm.
all in
So
one.
cool. So, so cool.
Um, what part of homeschooling stretches you the most?
Um, Uh, like, I think of that when I think that is, like, the things that are hard for me or the things that are good hard for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you kinda touched on it a little bit,
Yeah.
earlier too in terms of, uh, yeah, like staying the basically, uh, getting out of, like, the road school,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah,
that
I
might be
think
part
it's
of it.
that. Um, I think it's the ability to kind of pave our own way is both so cool and, like, ultimate freedom, and I think it's also, like, revolutionary. Like, I think that this time that I have with my kids right now will forever be, like, the high point of my life, for sure. It
Yeah,
feels like change making, it feels like, um, you know, foundation building, it feels so important, and I feel so grateful to be able to do it, and also, like, I am someone that, really wants to get it right and wants I think why I function well as a homeschooler too is because I do eh, constant optimization,
yeah,
which can be it's hard for me to be like, "Okay, what little element isn't working? How can we shift it? How can this week be different? How can I mean, I've always, like, parenting, mothering too is, like, the ultimate, like, I think the way I've approached it, like, this spiritual, hyper speed ahead, and I think homeschool is another version of that for me in terms of, like, um, really making sure that I'm the best that I can be for them, and
yeah,
that is also, like, the the other side of that is really hard. I can be really hard on myself, super hard on myself, and I think because of that too, it's like self-optimization and then like our family unit. And because all those things are so specific to me and us, like the things that I have a hard time with, and then how they all intersect with each of our personalities and like our family ecosystem. Um, I think because it's so specific, it can also be really isolating and lonely, you
yeah,
even in community. And like I have you and I have this group here and I have people I can talk to. And I think that that is hard, really hard for me sometimes. It's really hard for me to like share when I'm having a really hard time and ask for help. It's like such an ingrained part of my personality. I'm
yeah,
just like forever just gonna try to do it myself. Um, which is what makes me like so brilliant and it will always like be my downfall, you know?
my brilliant demise.
Uh, um, but like, also, like, just hearing myself say that out loud, it's, like, such a cool, like, growing point, and also, like, that is what I love about homeschool too, is I'm pretty, like, transparent with the girls about that, and they see that in me, they see when I'm struggling, and I try to explain why I'm struggling, and, um, I think that's so cool, like, that we have the ability to be really safe in our family and we trust each other, and then we can explore those complicated, overwhelming things that life just is and emotions that are without shutting them down, without being like, "Oh, I don't wanna expose you to this," or "We have to go do this," or, I think that's been really cool that they start to get that exposure earlier,
Yeah,
before being a young adult and being like, "What the fuck?" Like
yeah,
this is overwhelming and hard, and my mom never struggled. My mom just always had it together. Like, I want them to remember that I struggled too,
yeah,
you know? So,
yeah.
um, yeah. Big
Sometimes I'm like,
answer.
But ho when do I stop struggling, like, so much?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's got you still gotta come to back to baseline, you know?
I always think of because I think it was, like, Glennon Doyle or something, I always come back to this because she was like, "Yeah, I would rather, like, that I yelled at my kids, and then I repaired with them, and they saw that it was, like, okay to have big feelings versus the opposite of that," which is I feel like what our parents' generation had a lot of, which was, like, we don't have feelings. Like, there are no feelings, you know?
Yeah.
But then I give myself permission, you know, like, I let that be my permission slip, and then I'm like, "Okay, Glennon, but, like,
Yeah.
I gotta
Like,
go back
all the
to
time. I gotta, like, cut it pay. I know, right.
it."
You know? Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, there's still a time and place for it, right? And they are still kids too. Like, I was just reminded by a therapist of this the other day that, like, and I am so verbal. My kids are both very verbal, and she was basically like, "We have to remember that we don't wanna, like, push." I mean, that's a Waldorfy thing too, right? We don't wanna push to front brain cognitive, verbal, verbal, verbal all the time. We want them to like live in their bodies and we want them to process in their bodies. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't need to like, like that's kind of my like my instinct is to be like with sex, with like hard topics, with all of that stuff. I like push into like over explaining always.
Yeah.
And it's like, to like sit back and read the room and acknowledge the ages that they are and let it be driven by their interest and that I feel like would be the same with like my oversharing of my own, struggle and emotions too. It's like that line is super important, right?
Yeah.
Especially with emotion, I also have very sensitive kids, so I have to be really careful with that too. Them.
It makes me reflect on, like, because I do feel like I'm good at the repair piece, right? But
Mhm.
that's all verbal, and, like, then there's other times where instead of doing that, we just, like, have a dance party or you give someone a hug, and, like, that is always received so well. It's like that reminder too, like, repair doesn't have to look like a verbal thing either. Repair can be, like, getting outside and running around or a dance party or, you know.
Totally. Yeah, my youngest is like that. Very, like, we'll even we'll have some little scuffle, like, and I'll 10 minutes later be like, "Okay, I gotta go back and repair. We gotta go, like, sit down and talk this out," and I'll come back to her, and she'll, like, come and give me a hug, or I'll give her a hug. There'll be, like, some little interaction, and then I'll start to, like, verbally go there, and she'll look at me and be like, "What?" Like, what are we why are you apologizing? Like, isn't really, like, even recollecting, like, what that was.
Yeah.
But we obviously repaired it a little bit, like, there was, like, this acknowledgement and this, like, kind of physical connection, and she is, like, a more physical kid too, it's just interesting, like,
Yeah.
I don't need to go there, I don't need to overprocess.
As
That's
we're sitting here, like, overprocessed.
I mean, it's what you and I do well.
Oh my god.
So helpful too, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
There's a line with all of it, you
yeah.
know? Totally. Totally, totally. I feel like I mean, I have other, questions. I feel like we've, like, covered so many things that I was gonna, just by virtue of it being a conversation. But I do wanna ask, when things feel, hard, what are some grounding practices that you have that you feel like help you ground back in?
Mm. Mm, mm. I need time away, like physical time away from my kids.
Mhm.
I do. It is cool to watch that develop over the course of my parenting, and um, like I really don't need much time at all. Like I feel like I'm pretty efficient at it, but it like really makes the difference of whether I am able to show up and be really present with them and not.
Mhm.
Um, so I think getting up before they do is, like, huge for me, like, the days that that doesn't happen. And I do all kinds of different things, like, I it would be lying to say that I'm, like, yoga is the thing or walking is the thing. I think it's like larger than that. I think it's like m- my ability to get into the headspace that I need to be, like kind of some kind of self connection, really only happens if they aren't right there.
Yeah.
And I've always been that way. And for a long time in my mothering, it's been a point of feeling like profoundly guilty and selfish.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so I think that's cool that I don't feel that way anymore.
Yep.
And they're older, I think too it's different. Like, I maybe don't feel so guilty now because 'cause they're a little older, and it doesn't feel like, like needing to leave your baby feels pretty horrible when you're in it and
Yeah.
you
Feeling
and
of being touched out.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I think for me, that time and that happens in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it happens before they get up. We do quiet time every afternoon, and I like will just sit in the kitchen. Like as long as they're like out of kind of earshot, I can get there,
Yeah.
and it has to happen every day. I'm also like have to exercise and sweat. I think those two things it's like are the ways that I get in my body, and when I'm in that space, I can kind of access deeper headspace, and then I'm like a better mom, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like we covered other things that I was gonna ask. I feel like they came up. Is there anything else that you feel like would be fruitful?
Trick. Uh,
I'll say that I think something kind of unique about our relationship too is like homeschooling in two different states and being kind of like, worlds away, so to speak, but still like you're like my go-to for everything. Like we still talk about our
yeah, yeah.
experiences homeschooling in different states so much. I find that like I'm like that's so underrated. I hope everyone would have that too. It's so cool to hear about
Yeah.
like the similarities but also the differences and also just from like the larger community piece, like that's so cool and also to have someone who like we're very aligned in so many ways, to have someone who just to bounce things off of who
Mhm.
isn't like in your immediate, homeschool community, like that is also, I find it so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, you are someone I don't think I really talk to anyone else in the depth that we talk about in terms of like the day-to-day logistics and like curriculum stuff.
Yeah.
I don't talk to anyone, and I have found a little bit. I don't know if you've have had this experience too. There's a little, I mean, I think just parenting. I don't think it's specific to homeschool, but this sort of like gatekeeping, sort of weird energy sometimes when you're asking another parent, like, "What math curriculum do you use?" Or you know,
Yeah.
like and maybe it's Minnesota too, like this
No.
like being more vulnerable about like, "Oh, this is real hard." Like, no one I mean, I do have those relationships here, but I think to your point, when you're seeing people and, like, you're in, like, day-to-day community, well, not only do we not really have we're always kids are always there.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to these people on the phone very much. Like, I'm in person with them.
Yeah.
Really go there that often. Um, but, sometimes there can be a little bit of this, like, I don't know, like, how vulnerable do I wanna be? Or just, like, our methods are really different. I would say that, like, kind of my closest homeschooly friends here, we have for sure some overlap, and I would say, like, overarching, like, large scope, very similar, but, like, the day-to-day and kind of, uh logistic specific stuff, and maybe we are just, like, weird and because I don't know, like, the amount of, like, overlap that you and I have in terms of, kind of, like, family, stuff and rhythms and kid temperaments and,
Yeah,
there's, like, a lot of overlap there. But that's
yeah,
so, so, so helpful to
yeah,
have a person to bounce that stuff off of and help to process, you know?
yeah. It's huge.
You know?
I
Parents
think
incredible.
something that I find that like bumping up against curriculum piece, whether it's homeschooling or motherhood, part of me wonders if it's just a personality thing too, because it's like I feel myself, and it's like, uh, I mean, I said this to someone. I was like, yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to share more about homeschooling, but then I like don't. So then I had this idea to like interview all these other people so that they could share.
How about you go there, not me?
I know I have to do it too. but But it is like I feel like I have kind of like a preciousness around it because it feels like like sacred, like the family. It in that way, I do feel like there isn't always necessarily this separate like homeschooling motherhood thing. Like for me, it lives so much together that I do think that sometimes, that gatekeeping is like a protective mechanism for like protecting family stuff too, and
Totally.
just like the
Yep,
privacy of like
yep,
your kid. It's also protecting, like, my kid's childhood. It goes back to that of,
yep,
like, I don't need to, put this all on display, and at the same time, I do think it's so helpful, because people, especially when you are starting homeschooling, I feel like these types of conversations can be really helpful because you feel like, "Oh, I'm not going at this alone, like, there's other people who are."
right. And it's also, I think, like, hijacking a little bit of your own trust and ability to kinda know what you need to do, you know? Like,
Yeah,
I, um, I feel I mean, I guess mainly recently, a little bit. I mean, I need to live maybe in the other space a little bit, like reaching out and asking for, but I think that's probably another reason we ended up homeschooling is kind of this innate trust and knowing what knowing not only knowing what we need to do now, but like having confidence that I am able to change course and can make those decisions for myself and my family and, um
yeah,
not
without
overly taking
comparing or
advice, like, I feel like that is so parenting sphere and homeschool sphere and mothering sphere of this hijacking of our ability to make these decisions, like social media influence and all this crap, so much noise,
yeah,
a bunch of people that are just trying to fucking figure it out, like, with the exception of and I feel like that's what you and I do really well is, like, sit in this space of, like, "Oh, yeah, I hear that." Like, I can hear you reflect to me what I'm saying without it shifting into, "This is what" I mean, and, I do very much land in advice giving very easily, so it's something I work on, but, like, I think that is so important too, just I don't know. We don't need to be taking advice from anybody except for elder women that did it 40 years ago or whatever.
yeah.
Like,
And our kids who are like, Actually,
yeah,
here's what I really need
right,
from you."
right. Like someone that doesn't know your family and doesn't know you, like whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I think that's interesting too. How to be in relationship with each other in that way, like how to really be in like good parenting, mothering community in that way, like that's community support, not like this is what I'm doing and this is what you should be doing. And with the area,
100%.
yeah,
I feel like that comes up because, like, when I watch moms do that, I can tell that it's like a defensiveness, right? Like, everyone just wants to feel like they're doing the best thing for their kid, right? And if they're really, it validates that they're doing that curriculum, right? Like, well, we're doing this and this is why. Like, totally get it. But yeah, I agree that I don't feel like that is helpful in the context of like we're all in this together.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
So
hard though, holding both. It's like the individual within the community.
yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
cool.
That's what I got. All right. I love you. Thanks for
Love you
sharing.
too.